Hi everybody, can everybody hear me? Good. I'm starting and I'm trying to find, I'm using two cameras, so I'm just making sure that everything is working fine because today we continue reading aloud. And this is part of the global read aloud, and where many teachers, many classrooms, and many children are reading one same book. For 6 weeks, people are reading one same book. In my case, I'm part of the author study, so children are reading some of my books. And for that, I've been reading Just a Minute, I've been reading Little Night, I read, which one, what else? Do you remember? I've read a few of my books, Viva Frida. And what we are going to be doing today is dreamers. So I wanted to show you some of the things that I have with me. I'm in my studio. I've been traveling, and I waited until I was back in my studio so I could show you some of the materials that I have for when I made dreamers. I wish I could show you more, but it's so much that I'm not able to just bring everything here to the table to show you, because in fact, to make this book, to make the illustrations of these books took several months. And for every illustration, there are different things that I utilize. And Ana Castellan, saludos. Hola, Ana. Y Janet Michelle, oh, you're such a spectacular person. I love being able to witness your work. Thank you. And you are also amazing teachers and amazing readers and people who know how to connect with books. And I hope that today I can show you some things that will help you also connect with more books. And Luis Núñez Jr., hola, ¿qué tal? And first, I'm gonna show you what's the book. This is the book, Dreamers. And this is a story that I wrote, and also I wrote it in Spanish, Soñadores. I did write the story, but for Soñadores, in fact, if you look inside, you find a place where it says traduction by Teresa Malauer. And I do speak Spanish, and I do write in Spanish, but when it came to make a translation of Dreamers, which I wrote in English, we decided, my editor and I decided that we were gonna let someone who is an expert in doing translations to translate this book. So I am a writer, but I'm not a translator. Teresa Malauer is an excellent translator. So she created the text with me, along with me, we worked together, the text in Spanish. So there is a lot of things that go behind a book. And here is Jorge Salas. Hola Jorge, ¿qué tal? A todos los que están ahí con ustedes. William García. Oh, I know, saludos, William C. So one of the things that I'm gonna show you is how a book starts. What I do when I make a book is I always make files like this, and I put them in folders like this one. So I have many of these folders with some of the things and that are part of the process of making each book. And like this first folder is actually of another image. I was gonna be making a poster, and I decided to make an image that you might have seen around, which is something that I titled La Valiente. It's probably not so easy to see, but let's see, you can see this is a sketch I did about a woman. And this woman, she's a brave one. And she actually has a snake on her hand. And she's a woman like the woman in my family, in my community. She's a Latina woman, an Latinx woman. She's a woman who might be born in Mexico, or like I did, or in Central America, or in South America. And I wanted to make this poster because I wanted to both acknowledge and celebrate the strength of women, but also of women like me, women of color, women of brown skin, women who might be indigenous of the lands of the Central and South America. And I was making that poster, something happened. There were some powerful people. And Christian Andrade, a mi hija de 2 años le encanta este libro, gracias. So I was telling you that when I was making this poster, there were also some powerful people who were talking about immigrants. And you know what is an immigrant? An immigrant is someone who is born in one country and then goes and lives and works in another country. There are many ways to be immigrants. Not only people are immigrants, animals are immigrants as well. And why will an animal decide to go and migrate to another place if they were born maybe in Mexico? Like, for example, the monarch butterflies, just like this one. Monarch butterflies are migrant butterflies, which means that they are born in one place and then they go and move to another place to grow, to reproduce, to live, to thrive. Why do animals migrate? Well, a lot of people say because maybe in the place where they were born, there was not enough food, or maybe there were too many predators. Like for the monarch butterfly, they are always looking for the milkweeds. So, for instance, monarch butterflies, some of them are born here in Mexico, but they travel very far. They travel all the way to Canada. Why would they go that far away when they could stay here in Mexico? Well, they go there because there they are finding the things that they can eat. They find the milkweeds, they find places in which they can have their babies. And once the weather starts getting cold in Canada and the north of the United States, they come back to Mexico where the weather is warm, and then can continue having babies and thriving and living and continue existing in this planet. People also do that same thing. Sometimes they have to go to a different place to find the things that they need to live a better life, to thrive, to find food for their families, to have a job, to find a place where they feel safe. And I decided I wanted to make a story about immigration because I didn't like it that there were some powerful people that were deciding and were using words to describe who immigrants were. Immigrants like me, a person who was born in Mexico and one day went to live in the United States. I was hearing people saying that immigrants were not good people, or that immigrants were criminals, that they were committing crimes. And I think that some people just don't know what immigrants really are. And if someone is gonna describe who we are, it better be us. It better be us who tell our stories. So I decided I was gonna tell my story because it's the one that I know best. And I wanted to do that so that I could also invite others, especially children, to tell their own stories. How is it that they came to the place where they are living now? And also to tell us and use their own words or the drawings or whatever they use to express themselves to tell us who you are. I like to tell things by making books. I like to write words and I like to make images. And in that way, I get to tell you things. You might have different ways to say things. I do it through books. And when I make a book, I do many things. And Cynthia Andrade, thank you, Cynthia. I'm gonna show you that when I'm gonna make a book, sometimes it's just like such a big thing, like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna finish making a book like this, and I don't even know if I know how to draw well. I have to start with very simple things, and the way I start is actually very little. And let me see if I'm gonna try to grab some of my first sketches, which are in this place. And because I might get intimidated by knowing that I have to make big and beautiful and colorful paintings, what I do to start, because that might be intimidating to me, like, wow, what if I don't know how to do it? And Luis Nunez, I'm so happy you're saying this. Better be us who are telling our stories. That's right, it better be us. Us are the ones who can tell who we are. And because that task can be really intimidating, at least for me, what I know how to do is I start very small, and let me see, I'm trying to see if I can have a piece of paper that I can use, so that, because I use transparent paper, as you can see, it's called tracing paper. And the reason why I use tracing paper is because it allows me to put one paper in front of the other, and that way I can draw. Like, I make these little drawings. Let's see if you can see here. This is this drawing I made of a mother with a stroller in the baby, and a stroller and with some books. Here's the drawing of a dog. Here is the drawing of the skeleton, see if you can see it. And it's carrying a book. And I always like to start with very little drawings, because these little drawings, you might see, they are kind of simple. Like, Señor Calavera is just a stick people. And when I do it that way, I can start having a sense of what I'm gonna create. And yet it's not too complex and too complicated. And if I make a mistake, I can always erase it, and I can draw again and again and again. I make a mistake, it's fine, because it's a little drawing that I can erase once more, and again I can redraw it many times. So I like to start small with these little drawings, and then I create what is called thumbnails. Thumbnails, I call them thumbnails because these drawings are not bigger than my thumb. If you see, these little drawings are actually very, very small. So they are smaller than my fingers. And with these drawings, I start imagining how I'm gonna tell the story. So I first wrote the story, then I start making little drawings called thumbnails. But those little drawings still cannot be in a book because they are too little. They are very simple. They don't tell the story quite yet. Here are some more of those thumbnails. But what will happen next is that I need to create something that is called a sketch. And this is not a sketch yet. This is just another thumbnail. And let me see if, because I take my pieces of paper and I just move them around, and I make what you could call a studies. Like, this is the mom who is making the book. She has a thread and a needle. You will see it later in the illustrations. But later on, I have to make and create a scenes. And what I start doing is I start making my drawings bigger. And let's see, here is one. And again, I'm gonna put this here so you can see it. And this is, here is the mom that she's reading the book to the baby when they find the library. And Luis Nunez, it says, I never thought of doing that. That's really creative, using the tracing paper first. Yeah, so what you do is like I make my drawing, like right here. So what I do is I take another piece of tracing paper, and I'll show you. I have my big roll of tracing paper right here. So if I wanna refine it, I can put my paper on top of it, and using what I see underneath, then I draw it again, but I put more details, I change lines, and then I make it, I might even do research and see how things look like, so that then they start looking like something that I want to recreate. Like, how does a book look like when you hold it in a certain way? So I might take pictures, or I can draw again and again until it starts looking like something that I remember, like I will use a book and then place it in this way and try to copy it. Maybe I take a photograph, and then that I use that for reference when I'm drawing. And I don't know if this happened to you, but when I was little, I loved to copy. I did a lot of copying because I was just learning how to draw. I didn't know how to do it. And part of my learning was copying. Also, part of my learning was tracing. But when I was little, I always had this idea that tracing was like cheating, like you shouldn't do it. I felt like that because I thought that's not real drawing. That's like copying from somebody else who knows how to draw, and then I'm doing it here. So I thought that wasn't fine, and I was very wrong. Sometimes I even felt guilty. I felt like, oh, I'm not good at drawing. I'm not even a good artist or anything of the sort, because in order to make a drawing, I had to copy, or I use tracing paper. Now that I'm an adult, I know that that's just one of the most magnificent ways to learn how to draw things. Sometimes you see how other person did it, and if you use your pencil and trace over the things that that person drew already, maybe what you do is you put a piece of paper on top of it, and then you trace what you see underneath, then you start learning, like, how does your hand feel when you do that? How does your pencil feel? Like, how do you have to hold it in order to make a line that goes this way and that way? And then you also recognize that some drawings might have certain details, like to look like a face. What does your drawing need to look like a face? Well, you need to put maybe like a nose right in the middle of the face and the eyes on the sides. But sometimes we don't know it all by ourselves. So we can always go and look at what other people have drawn. We can look at photographs. You can ask someone, that we can see how other people draw, so that we can also learn and try and copy what they do, so that we start learning how to do it. We get to practice. I have practicing a lot because I've been drawing for all these years that I'm alive. And now I'm a little better. But even so, most of the time when I'm starting a book, I don't feel like I know a lot. It's like every book is a learning process. I learn again how to draw things. Sometimes I don't even know how to do, like if I'm gonna make a stroller, I don't have the stroller in my memory. But what I can do is go and look at the stroller or find a picture of a stroller, and I can trace on that picture so that I learn how to do it. Luis Sánchez, saludos de Los Ángeles y al Salón 18. Muchas gracias, qué bueno que están aquí. So les voy a enseñar, I'm gonna show you some more of the things that I use for making dreamers. Those are my little drawings. But for dreamers, I couldn't just put drawings on pieces of tracing paper for my book. I was gonna make final art. Final art can be made with anything. And I decided that for dreamers, I was gonna make the art by using drawings, but I was gonna make them with, I was gonna do the outline with ink on paper. And I'm gonna show you, I have some of those drawings here. Like I told you, I have all these folders when I keep things. And this is a drawing. I made my drawing first and the tracing paper, and it was very little, like I showed you before. And Santa Yañez Montes, I love that you say that every book is a learning process. Absolutely. We learn about everything that we decide to put in a book. We learn about the theme, about who we are, about our strength, and we also learn about the things that are not easy for us. Like sometimes I don't feel like I know how to draw, but through the book, I continue learning. And you see, this is my drawing. Like I said, first I make a small drawing. It was little, it was just my guideline. But eventually I needed to make artwork that will go in a book. So I started making drawings more refined right here. And you might see, this is ink on paper, and I made some mistakes. And I don't know if that happens to you, like when you are using ink, it's very easy that a drop of ink just falls in the paper and you feel like, oh my goodness, now it's drawing. Well, in my case, it's not drawing yet. And this drawing is gonna require still a lot of work. This is just the beginning. And Melia Wolf, you are so generous. Thank you, because you are so generous also to be here and be open up to hearing and receiving some of the things that I would love to show you today. So this is my drawing, and you might be able to see where this drawing is gonna become. And do you see this? It's just the beginning of the drawing. And what happens is that it doesn't have any color yet. And for dreamers, as on some of my other books, I decided I was gonna make it in my computer. So how I was gonna make it in my computer, I took a photograph of this in a machine, it's called a scanner. And that scanner allows that photograph to go inside of my computer. I also took some pictures just with my phone, with my camera, and I put all those photographs inside of my computer. So what I do is that I create something that's called a palette. I think that's how you pronounce it in English. And that palette is as if I had physically a place, a box where I could put colors on it. And if I had a brush, I would have dipped my brush right in there and I would have used it to paint it. But instead, I did that palette inside of my computer. I do have programs that act as if I had a physical brush, and my brush here is in my computer. My brush looks like this, and my colors and my textures are photographs of things that are important to me. For Dreamers, I wanted my photographs to be significant and those colors to be significant of things that were part of my process of learning how to be an immigrant, because I was an immigrant too. I came to the United States when I was a new mom, and that's why I created Dreamers. Is inspired in my story, although to me it is as if that mom and that baby is not necessarily me. It is inspired in many mothers and many babies and many families who have come to the United States. And what I use my own experience, because it's one that I know very well, to create that book, so I could put in there the feelings that I had when I had just immigrated, like when I felt confused, when I didn't know something. I know how it feels that. So I wanted to put those feelings inside of Dreamers. Some of the other things that I created colors from is like crepe paper. Do you have crepe paper on your classroom? You can use crepe paper to make paper flowers. I love making paper flowers, so I always have crepe paper with me. And what I did is, once more, using my scanner, which is like a camera. It's a machine that acts like a camera. It takes a picture of the paper if I put the paper on top of it, and then I can use those colors and those textures to add them to my drawings inside of my computer. I also took photographs of these shiny fabrics, and see, when we are reading Dreamers, see if you can find where I might have used these fabrics to paint. Let's see, once more I'm gonna show you. Here is the Spanish version, Soñadores, and I don't know if you can start seeing some colors that look like this fabric, because I used photographs of this fabric to paint those images. Let's see, I have many things here and that I want to show you. I have also some paintings, because I also make paintings on paper, just like this. I took a piece of paper and then I painted these clouds, and once more I took a photograph with my scanner of these clouds, and then I had them in my computer, and I was able to put them inside some of them. Let's see if we can find one image where there are lots of clouds, and if you have the book there, you might be able to eventually see more of them. And here are some clouds, and you see them right here, and they don't look exactly like that. Do you see? Because when I put them in my computer, I'm still gonna have to do more work. It doesn't just go straight like that, and it's like if it was a sticker. And Dana York, so much great info. Yes, you're welcome. I hope that you are liking this. So I was saying, it doesn't exactly just cut it and put it on top like it was a sticker. What I do is I put it inside of my computer, and I take those textures and those the colors, and I start reworking and redrawing. Rather than doing it right here outside, like I had my paper right here, instead I do it with my computer. I have also the tools that allow me to see it in the screen and continue working. Inside of Dreamers, there are many things that are made with paintings on paper. Like, I don't know if you can start recognize what might this be. One more thing. This is another painting. Here is another painting. I put them inside of my computer so that I could make them part of an image. And here are more paintings that I made. Can you start to recognize what this might be? And this. These are the covers of some of the books that I love. Books that have been very important to me. Because when I found out that there were books, illustrated books, at the public library, a place which I had never seen before until I came to the United States with my baby. When I realized that in this world and in the United States existed picture books, I fell in love with them. So for Dreamers, I decided I was gonna do something that I've done since I was little, which is when I love someone, I like to make drawings of them. And I love books. These are like my family. When I first saw picture books, some of the books that I saw were books like this. And I decided to make portraits of these books and put them inside Dreamers. You will be able to see them once we start reading. I made paintings of other things like this leaf, and see if you can see it later in the books. This one I also painted it with my brushes, with acrylic paints. I put a paper on my table, and that I did it with my brushes, the ones that look like the painter brushes. But then I took a photograph with my scanner of this, put it inside of my computer, and then I start working it with this other brush. You see, that's a different brush. This is more like an electronic pencil or pen that allows me to move things in my computer and clean them, erase. I can erase as well, but I do it in my computer rather than do it directly on the paper. And I have many drawings that I made. I put them inside my computer, and so then Dreamers is a combination of things that I painted on paper, photographs that I took, and drawings that I made with ink on paper, and then I put all of that together as if it was rompecabezas. A rompecabezas means a puzzle. Do you think that we should read Dreamers right now? And then at the end, I will show you a few more things that you might be able to see inside this book. Yesterday I received a video, and I hope they told me that I can share it now, so I'm gonna be posting it later, of a little girl reading my book in the language of I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, so Sutsuhil. I'm gonna check the pronunciation so I can tell you the name of this language correctly. But this is a language that is spoken in Guatemala. And it's such a great reading, because what this little girl did is that she took my book Soñadores and read it as in Spanish as it is written in Soñadores, and then she read it to the elders in her village, to the women in her village, and she read it in the language that they understand, which is not Spanish, it's not English, it's a language that is spoken in some communities of Guatemala. And you might have some of you here in these classrooms might be able to understand that reading, because perhaps you speak those languages. Many of you speak more than one language. There are some people who speak English, like I speak English, even though it sounds like this, but I speak English. I speak Spanish. I speak also the language of books, of children's books, of picture books, because this is also a way to communicate things. And in wanting to communicate, I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to tell a story of how it's like, as I lived it, as I recognize it, as I know how it feels to be an immigrant, to be a person who is born in one place and then goes to another. How do you feel when you go to a different place? And now, how do you feel if you don't speak the same language and nobody can understand you? how do you feel if you cannot make yourself understood, so nobody can tell you like, yes, you are right, or no, you are not right? I know that I felt sometimes as if I wasn't there, because what the things that I had in me that I wanted to others to know, I couldn't show them, I couldn't tell them. And picture books is a way that it's a language that I learned, that I knew that I could tell things through books. And that's why I make books like Dreamers, and where I put words and I put images, because this is my way also of telling you stories. And we are gonna read Dreamers. And this is by su servidora, Yuyi Morales. I just take off the jacket. The jacket is this wrap that goes inside the book, that goes on top of the book. And as you can see, also here is an image for the jacket of the book, and then it is a slightly different image for the inside, and what is called the cover of the book. So this is how it starts, Dreamers by Yuyi Morales. And remind me to show you later something that a reader told me that I had not noticed about the jacket. Remind me, because I want to show it to you. And it begins like this. And this is Dreamers by su servidora Yuyi Morales. Let me get position better so that everybody can see it. And it begins like this. I dream of you, then you appear. Together we became amor, love, amor, resplendent life, you and I. One day, we bundled gifts in our backpack and crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. And here it says, adios corazón. Goodbye, my heart. That's how it reads in English. And here is a backpack with the gifts that they bring. And when we made it to the other side, thirsty, in awe, unable to go back, we became immigrants. Migrantes, you and I, the sky and the land welcome us in words unlike those of our ancestors. How do you think that the mama feels? Does the baby feel the same as the mama? Luis Sanchez, one of my students, is asking if that language is, Juanjoal. I'm probably mispronouncing it. She is from Guatemala. It's not that one. It's called Sutujil, if I'm correct, but it is probably from the place where you come from. And let me, here, I'm having two cameras, so I'm sorry, I'm just going like back and forth. And then it says, I'm gonna repeat this page. Migrantes, you and I, the sky and the land welcome us in words unlike those of our ancestors. There were so many things we didn't know. Unable to understand and afraid to speak, we made lots of mistakes. Now, I'm gonna tell you something about these drawings. I put these drawings here. I am the illustrator, so I decide what images are gonna be in these pages. And I chose these images as the illustrator of this book because those are mistakes I made when I was a mother, an immigrant, a new immigrant in the city of San Francisco. And these are things that happened to me. I made those mistakes. Joanna, oh my heart, this book is incredible. Gracias, Joanna. And I'm gonna show you, for example, I made this mistake. You see, here is the mama, and you might be able to see that she has something on her hand, and that's a telephone. Luis Nunez, Nunez, I'm getting chills listening to you read it. I have read this book multiple times, but this is a whole new level. Thank you. I hope that you can get everything that you can from this book, because right now I'm gonna tell you, for example, like why some of these drawings are here. And I make this drawing here with the mama, and like she has this anguished face, and the baby is with her, and she is just saying, because this happened to me. When I was a new immigrant, I never wanted to answer the telephone because I didn't know what I was going to be able to do with the person who spoke on the other side, because I wasn't going to be able to understand that person because I didn't speak her language. I didn't speak English. And let me do one thing here so I don't lose my battery. So what I will do is that I will be afraid of answering the phone. And I made this drawing here to remember and to signal how it was like for me that I never wanted to answer the phone. Or I put this drawing here because when I needed to go to a place, I knew I could get there in a train called the Bird. But to get places, you can use maps to get to where you want to go. But these maps were written in English. And if I knew that a place had a certain name, it sounded like it was supposed to be written differently because I speak Spanish. And things in Spanish, the sounds you write them different than in English. So I could never find where I was going. It was very difficult for me. And I couldn't use the maps, and sometimes I thought I could not get to places. When my son started to learn how to read, he was the one who was helping me. And I put this drawing here, the one with the mother inside the fountain with the baby, because I made that mistake too. One day I went inside the fountain because I didn't understand the rules of this new place. I couldn't read them. I couldn't understand them if someone told them to me. And it wasn't until we were scolded for doing things that then I understood that we couldn't do that. I couldn't go inside the fountain and bathe my baby. Mariana Lopez Castilla, I can relate so much to this book. You probably have made mistakes just like this, right? I made lots of these mistakes. And Juana Ulas, she says she's done it too. I did things like this, like that. And this mom who cannot understand the language and cannot also speak the language, the only thing that she can say is, I. You and I became caminantes. Thousands and thousands of steps we took around this land until the day we found, and look at all the places that they had been walking. I did a lot of walking with my baby and my stroller. I met such amazing places, like here, you see, it says adopt me. We got our baby cat one day when we were walking with a stroller, and we found a woman who was giving a little cat for adoption. And sometimes when we walk, we would find people who were doing protests, and I didn't understand what they were talking about. But I knew that they were asking for something, and they were doing it with everything they had. And we walked to many places and discovered many things. And here goes this mom and this baby, that they find a place we had never seen before. Suspicious, improbable, unbelievable, surprising, unimaginable. What place is this? Mariana Llanos Lopez, does your son speak fluent Spanish, or did he when he was a child? Spanish was his first language, but because his family spoke English, he was able to learn also from them, and I did as well. And do you know what place is this? Because this is very important. It's very important for me. And you are right, this is a public library. This is a place where there were worlds that I had never imagined existed. where we didn't need to speak. We only needed to trust, and we did. Now, can you see this moment? I love to call this page the page of happiness, because a lot of happiness is happening here. I don't know if you can see that here this lady is giving something to the baby. What is it? I'm gonna tell you what it is. It's a magic card. It is a library card. Do you know how to use magic cards, like the library cards? You go to the library, you fall in love with books, you find books that you completely adore, and you want them so much, you wish that they were yours and you could take them home. Well, with your library card, you can do just that. You can take those books and take them home, and those books are you for a few days, for a few weeks, and you can read them to your sister, your doggy, your cat, to yourself. You can read them when you are before you go to bed, when you are having breakfast, when you're in the bathroom. You can read them anywhere you want and anytime you want, because they are yours for a few weeks, for a few days. And then when you are done, you take them back to the library, and then you take out more books that you are falling in love with. And you can do that if you have a library card. So here, that is this lady called a librarian is giving a library card to this baby, then even the sun comes out. Look at this. Don't you think that there is a lot of happiness here? I think there is a lot of happiness. Books became our language. Books became our home. Books became our lives. We learned to read, to speak, to write, and to make our voices heard. What do you think that this mama is doing? What is she making? And look at this. The baby just found something inside the backpack and is giving it to her mom. Someday, we will become something we haven't even yet imagined. But right now, we are stories. We are two languages. We are lucha. We are resilience. We are hope. We are dreamers, soñadores of the world. We are love, amor, love. And I'm gonna see if you notice that at the beginning of this book, there is a hand with a pencil, and it's right here. You see? This hand that seems to be writing the words. Perhaps she's also making all this art, this hand. But at the end of the book, there is a different hand. What does this hand look like? Does it look like it belongs to the same person at the beginning? Because this looks like a big hand, and this looks like a small hand. To me, I created this because I wanted to recognize that children are our storytellers. They are the ones who also tell their stories. As much as we adults are authors and create books and tell the stories, the real stories are in the hands of children. They are in your hands. You can tell the stories. You can tell them with all the words that you have, the words that you know. If you don't know any words yet, you can do anything you want to create the stories. You can use paper, you can cut out colors and glue them onto a book. You can make your own books. Here in this page, when I was asking you, what do you think that the mother is doing? Well, the mother is actually making a book. She's making a book in the way that she learned how to make books in the public library. And I'm gonna show you, I have a lot of things here. I put that because when I was also a mother with a baby, I learned to make my own books. And I learned them to make from books like this one right here, with instructions that I found at the public library. So I will go to the library and I will find books that also had drawings, and that helped me. It has pictures, and they helped me to understand when I couldn't read them because I didn't know enough English yet. And they had instructions, and if I followed the instructions, I could make my own books, and I could tell my own stories in the same way that you can tell your own stories. And I'm not gonna say the Colorín Colorado yet, because we are gonna continue looking at this book, even though this is the end of the story. It finishes here. But the story is really not finished, because it isn't until it goes to you, to the reader, that then the story continues. How will you tell that story? And I'm gonna show you here. You see there are some images, and this is an image of a book. Here is other books. These are different from the books that you see in here, because these are books that I found at the library. And you might recognize some of this. Maybe you've seen them at your public library or a library at your school. And maybe you were also as surprised as me and my son were when we saw these books, and maybe you even fallen in love with them. And perhaps you love those books so much that you want to make your own books. I felt like that. When I discovered picture books, I wanted to make books just like those. I didn't know how to make them. So I started learning. And I learned from looking at other people's books, but also by finding books that taught me how to do things. Like, for example, this picture here is of a book that I made, and I have it right here. It's this one. And this is the very first book I made. Of course, it's not a published book. It's a book I made because I wanted to make books just like the ones at the public library. So it's an old book. It's like, it must be about 25 years old. And you can see the cover is gone now. It just has the back cover. But what I did is I copied from the books that I saw at the library. I realized that books at the library have words. I only spoke Spanish, so I wrote my words in Spanish. And Alexo Zavala, hermosa como siempre. Saludos, hola Alex. Y Meg Pincus, love this so much. Muchas gracias. Thank you for being here so I can show you and I can share with you these things. And so what I did is I copied. I saw that you can create a story with words, and you could also tell that story with drawings or paintings. Before I came to the United States, I always liked to draw. I loved to draw since I was a little girl, but I had never painted. And once I got here, I actually did I did one painting in a school, but I didn't know how to do it, and I actually got a really bad grade from my teacher. That's another story I can tell you some other time. But what happened is that I had really never experienced how it was like to make drawings and paint them with brushes and paints, and I had to learn. And the way I did it is I went to the art store and I bought myself my first set of these are like pastel crayons and different art materials, and I started to practice on my dining table and just copying by seeing how other people made books. Then I made my own books. At the public library, there were also books that taught me how I could put those pages together. That's called binding. So I learned how to bind books, and you can bind books in many different ways. This one is made by gluing pages one with the other. Like I fold the piece of paper, like let's see this one. I'm not gonna fold it because this is my drawing, but what I will do is I fold it like this. I will fold it well, not like right now, but then I will take another piece of paper. I don't have enough here, but let's see, I will take another one. I'm gonna try to do this without damaging my drawings, and then I put glue between these two and I put them like this, and so they attach together. So eventually you can make a book by attaching more and more pages like that. This book, I made it like that. And you can see here is the cover I made. I made this paper by following a recipe that I found in a book, that you can make your own paper. And Joanna says, wow, and Angie Moreno, saludos, Angie. Augie, did I say your name right? Augie, right? Sometimes I don't know how to pronounce those names in English yet very well, but so I made this paper by following instructions that says that you can take tissue paper, the one that you use like tissues, even the toilet paper, you can use it. And what you do is you put it inside a pot with water and you boil it. You boil it very, very well. And then you turn off the fire and you let it cool, and then you put it inside your blender. And then you turn on the blender, and then it goes to the spins and it makes like a pulp. Now there is water in there, and you need to take the water off. So I use like a piece of fabric, so that then the water will drain off the fabric, but the paper pulp will be on it. And then I added things like glue, and I added something that is called linseed oil. And just doing all those things, I was able to create a paste, a pulp, that then I put on a flat surface, and then I just patted it, and I made my own paper. Those things, I didn't know how to do them, but I learned them from a book that I found at the library. And from many books, then I start learning how to do things like making my books. Like at the end, even making a book just like Dreamers. We have many different ways of telling our stories. We also have different ways of making books. I make books by putting words and putting drawings together, but you can make your own book by maybe even putting spaces, empty spaces together. The emptiness also tells things. We have many ways to say things. If you have a pencil and you can grab it with your hands, you can draw and make drawings with your hands, but maybe you don't, and maybe you are going to use something different. Maybe you're going to use a different part of your body, or you are not going to use a pencil, you are going to use a piece of paper that you cut from a magazine, or even a crepe paper, like I did. You take pieces of crepe paper and you glue them on a page, and you make your own book, and you tell your own story in your very own way. And we are gonna be finishing, but I want to show you just a few more things about that you might find when you make your own reading of Dreamers. And let's see, I had, when my son and I were visiting the library, and this is many years ago, my son was just a baby. One of the things that he fell in love with were books about many things. One of them was firefighters, one of them was sharks, another one was baseball, basketball, and the space Apollo program. And he loved that so much that he wished that he could be an astronaut. So what I did at that time is I taught myself how to do things that he could wear so that he would look like an astronaut. And for instance, I made this for him, just imitating and copying from those movies, but also from books where we saw that the astronauts will wear something like this in their head. So I made one for my son, and I even made, I made a spacesuit for him. I made these pants. I painted them with paints that I found at the art store. Those were some of my first set of paints for fabric. Let's see. I made him this one so that he could look like those astronauts that he was seeing in the books that he saw and we found at the library. So you might find it here that when the mama is, like, they had brought all these books from the library and they are reading them and learning from them, and mom is also making, just like I did, inspired in the astronaut books, something so that this baby who is growing up can continue dreaming about the things that he wants to be. But not only about the things that he wants to be one day, but also about the things that he already is, because he is already so much. Like you are already so much. Someday, yes, you are going to become something more than you are, or something different than you are right now. But it's not that you are not already enough now. You are more than enough. You are already perfect. Every child And especially children who have come from places where now they are here in the United States, or they are in a place where they weren't born, and sometimes they feel like, oh my, if you feel like I did, maybe you feel like, ooh, I don't know if I should be here. I'm gonna tell you something. You should all be here. You are all welcome. Actually, we have been waiting for you, because all of you come full with presents, with regalos. And you are more than enough. You don't have to become nothing else that you are not already. Perhaps you are a storyteller. Perhaps you are someone who likes to create and make drawings. You speak more than one language, or maybe 1 or 3 or 4, but you also have stories in you, and you have hopes, and you have so many things. You have brought so many gifts with you. We can hardly wait to see what are those gifts that you have brought. We all have gifts with us. And I put some gifts here in this backpack, because I learned that when you come to a place, you always bring with you all what you are, and all of those things are marvelous. They are gifts that we are all gonna enjoy. And I put here some of the gifts that I, for instance, have learned that I brought with me. When I came to the United States, I thought I had brought nothing. I thought, oh, I didn't even bring regalitos for the family who was gonna welcome me here. I thought I didn't bring anything. I thought the only thing I had was like my suitcase, I had some clothes in there, and I had my baby with me. I was already an adult. I was not a child like many of you. And yet, I still felt like I didn't know if I was gonna be welcome, because maybe I didn't bring enough with me. What I know now is I brought more than plenty. You also bring more than plenty. You bring so many things, and some of the things that I know now that I brought when I came with my baby with me were things like, I brought the memory of the flowers and the clouds and the rain that is here where I was born. You, right now, you are seeing me, I'm here in my studio in the city of Jalapa in Mexico. I was born in this city. I live in the United States for many years, and I was an immigrant. I am still an immigrant, because my home now is in many places. My home is the United States. My home is also this place where I was born, and I travel constantly, kind of just like the monarch butterflies, kind of just like the swallows, the barnyard swallows, who are also migrant animals, and also like the free-tailed bats, who are also animals that migrate, that are born in one place and go to another one, and then they come back. I do that too. I was born here in Jalapa, but I go to the United States where I have lived, and I'm a citizen there, and then I come back here to Mexico once more, and I'm constantly going from one place to another. I am a constant immigrant. Donna York, I have had so many things happen to me like this with my kids, mostly my first baby boy and him growing, learning from that, from my other children. I work so hard for them. Many parents work very hard for them, like the animals, like the bats. Not all bats migrate, but the free-tailed bats migrate, and they come from Mexico and sometimes from South America, and they go to the United States. They have their babies there. They go to places like Austin. Have you been to Austin, when there is a bridge, and then inside the bridge, underneath the bridge, the bats are roosting, and they have their babies there. They don't stay there all year. They come back to Mexico and South America. They are always going back and forth. And the reason why they go to places like Austin is so that they can have their babies there. Their babies are born there, and they know that they can thrive and they can be fun. They will have food for them, they will feed them, they will take care of them very, very much. Families and parents do that for their children. They go to the right places where the babies and the children can go to school, where they can have a job and they can work for them, and they can give them all the safety and all the love that they deserve. Animals, humans, we do that, and we bring our gifts with us. Animals do too. I know that I brought gifts with me. I brought, for example, I brought my heart, and I brought my intuition, my unique way of seeing things. I brought my stories and represented in this dog-like animal, which here in Mexico is a symbolism, at least for me also, but for many Mexicans too, of companionship both in life and in death. Because here it is believed that when you die, your dog will accompany you so that you together can get to the ultimate place in the Mictlán. Also, I brought with me my joy for life and humor and smiles. I brought with me my emotions, this passion that I feel for things, and also when I feel sad, when I feel happy, and just how it's so powerful. I brought that with me and I put it here symbolized by a volcano. So I didn't make a drawing of my emotions because I wouldn't know how to draw that. But what I did, I used a symbol. I used a picture of something different that means my emotions. So I put this volcano to mean my emotions. But I also know that I brought ways of learning how to heal and the wisdom of my ancestors. I also know I brought my talents. Like for instance, I love drawing. I like to draw. I've been doing it for a long time. And I brought it with me. I carried it in my backpack. Even I didn't know, I didn't realize it. I also brought the stars and the moons, and I brought the sun with me. I brought all of those things. And yes, they are all symbols. I didn't know when I came to the United States that I already had anything I needed to be a creative person, to be a person who gives. We do give who we are. I didn't know it. I thought I didn't have enough when I came, but no, I have more than enough. And since I was little, I love drawings. So I'm going to show you here this. This is the image. Actually, this is the beginning of Dreamers, and it represents not only that, yes, we dream at every moment. You as a child, you dream about things. This mother also was a child one day, and she also dreamed about things. And what I did for this image, remember I am the illustrator, so I made this drawing, I made this page in Santa Llanes. I brought the wisdom of my ancestors. Of course you did. We had brought such a beautiful things with us. And here what I did to create this image is, once more, I took photographs. And I took photographs, and let me see if I can find them, because now I have a big mess here. I took photographs of, I took photographs of the first book I made. I took photographs actually of the second book I made. And these are all books that I made just in my house by trying to copy and writing some words and trying to find my English. I was learning English, so I started writing some things in English and making drawings. But for Dreamers, I also took photographs of things that I made when I was a little kid. This is one of the notebooks that my mother kept from when I was little. And these drawings, which I made on pieces of paper, I made them when I was very little, probably little like you, here. And I put them inside Dreamers. Here's another drawing I made when I was, I must have been 10 or 11 years old when I made this drawing. So what I did is I took a photograph with my scanner of these drawings. I put them inside my computer, and then I added other drawings, other artwork that I did with, again, acrylics on paper and everything. And I took those photographs, I put them to be part of this image. So these are drawings I made when I was little. And one of the things that I love about this is to remind myself that when I was a little kid, I never imagined that the drawings that I was making, which I thought they are not good. But those drawings are already part of a book. And when I was 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 years old, and for many years, for most of my life, I never thought that those drawings that I was making right there next to my mother's sewing machine someday might be part of a story that I could tell in a book a picture book for children just like this. I'm gonna show you before we say goodbye just one more thing. Here is, I'm gonna remember I told you that I was gonna show you about something about the jacket. So I told you the jacket is this paper that wraps around the book, and it protects the paper, the book, I'm sorry, but it also gives you some information like what the book is about, who the author is, and you can take it out. And one day I received an email from someone saying, Yuyi, how did you do that? Like, did you plan? And I said, what are you talking about? They say that when you open the spread of Dreamers, the image like that, you can make the mom move. And I said, how do you do that? And she said, look, you just have to move the paper up and down in a certain way. And it looks, I'm gonna try to do it right here for you. Let me accommodate. So it goes like this. Happy birthday, Joanna. If you look at the cover like this, can you see the face of the mom? How does she look like to you? She looks sad, doesn't she? And if you start moving the paper and you go like this, what do you see? How does she look like right now? Doesn't she look happy? So you can go from a mom that is not sure, that is feeling perhaps sad because she doesn't understand the language, because she doesn't know yet what's happening and how is she gonna find her path in a new country. What's gonna happen when she gets there? Are people gonna like her? Are they gonna understand her? Is she gonna find a job? Is she gonna be able to understand other people and make friends? Or this is a mother who is finding that there are things that are there for her. Also, she's finding many hands that extend to her and will be part of her journey of learning who she is as a person. And this is what I wanted to show you, how you can make the mom go from one to the other. And this is a way of telling a story too. There are many different ways of telling a story. And I was gonna show you then that there is one more gift, un regalo, that is in the backpack. The backpack is very important to me because it signifies my learning and the learn that I hope that everybody can go through, which is realizing that we have so many gifts with us. And one of the gifts that I put in this backpack is this instrument. You see it right here. Some people say, like, why do you put a guitar in there? It is not a guitar, it's called a jarana. A jarana is a folk instrument from here, from the state of Veracruz, Mexico, where I was born and also where I live. Jaranas are this instrument. I'm gonna show it to you right now. This is the jarana that is in Dreamers. And this jarana is an instrument that my son's name is Kelly. His dad, Kelly's dad, is a person who was born in the United States, but came to Mexico and fell in love. Like, I fell in love with books when I went to the United States. But when he was living here, before we met, he fell in love with music. He fell in love with the music of the state of Veracruz, which is called son jarocho. When we met, he made this instrument for me, and it is made from one single piece of wood, and artisans carve this wood and they start giving it shape, and they carve it so it's hollow on inside, and then they made the top and they glue it together. It's a lot of work. I'm telling you this very simple, but it's a lot of work. But these instruments are made by hand and they are very beautiful. This is the one that he made to me, and it might be like 26 years ago that he made this instrument. And this is an instrument that also he gave me as we were becoming parents. And I never got to learn how to play it, but my son learned how to play it. And I know that we brought this in our backpacks, in our gifts. We brought the love for music, the music that we have inherited also from our ancestors, from the people here in the state of Veracruz. And just recently I have started to learn how to play it. I don't know a lot yet, but I'm learning how to play. And actually very close to where I live, I take classes and I'm learning how to play my jarana. Have you heard about the song La Bamba? La Bamba is a traditional song from the state of Veracruz, played as son jarocho. I'm learning just how to play.